Well, growing up with Ron, I mean, we were constantly racing and having fun. We were never bored. We were always constantly working on cars, or go-karts, or mini bikes, or snowmobiles. From getting the lawnmower faster, to the go-kart faster, to the car faster. We were always working, trying to make things faster. So that's what we did. The first car we ever worked on was our dad's 62 Galaxy, and that was a learning experience because we were very young, but again, we got to work on it. And then we moved up to, my dad bought a 70 Torino, and then we had our own cars, and Ron took it to another level. He built a bigger engine. Of course, Ron always built a bigger engine. No one taught us how to do anything. We learned on our own through trial and error. We'd always watch the NASCAR races on TV. And there was a Richard Petty pit stop. Ron was probably about 10, I was about 12. And we go out and jack up the car and change the tires. You could say it's in our blood, you know, especially Ron. I think that's why Ron is such a good mechanic now. No one trained him. There was no college to go to or nothing like that. You had to go there and do it and figure it out on your own.
I was around Ron in the off-road days. The guys that he worked for, fun but extremely intense, just racers, you know, and they'll outwork you. And Ron grew up in that environment and is much like that. So I was chasing the dream of trying to race professionally for a living, and my path was coming up through the off-road ranks and moving into stock cars. I thought I needed to move to Charlotte area to kind of pursue that. So I moved to Charlotte. The Herzogs who I was racing for started up an ASA team for me to compete in. And literally as I was driving from Charlotte up to Wisconsin to start with this race team, I was talking to the guys from Pro Power on the phone, and Billy was like, hey man, if I know you're moving here, you know, Ron, who you've met, is sleeping above our engine shop in the attic, breathing all these fumes from the solvent tanks and all the other stuff. Maybe you guys could like get an apartment together and be roommates. And I'm like, yeah, I can barely afford an apartment on my own. It'd be great to share that. Ron was still working for Pro Power, and then as I really got to know Ron and his work ethic and knew far more about him than just kind of that engine mindset that I had him in, I knew we needed him to come to work on our ASA team. And we were expanding our ASA team. We moved into a new shop. We're ready to hire someone, and Ron was that guy. So literally since I've been racing a full-time schedule on the asphalt, Ron has been kind of my head wrench, if you will, on my race cars.
When I have to start thinking back about Ron and I, when it all started, you got to go back to our rookie season in 2002. Ron was actually a member of the 48 team before I was. He started here in 2001. He came here from Herzog with Jimmy. He was a traveling road mechanic, and a good one at that. I'll tell you, I was very impressed with Ron straight away, right out of the gate. And we got into that 2003 season. I was like, man, we need to give this guy an opportunity to be the car chief on the 48. He really impressed me with his tenacity, his love for the sport, his love for Jimmy, his vast knowledge of what racing is in so many different arenas. Pretty solid and a very, very easy pick for him to be the car chief on the 48.
When we're at the track, he's all about the 48 car. He lives and breathes it. He really does. He lives and breathes racing, but more so this car. You know, this is what he's wanted to do since he was a young boy. This is what he's accomplished. These are the reasons why he is so successful and with what he does.
This past year, there's been some issues, and Ron, I can really look at Ron for help, and I don't know, Ron's the best. I mean, I love my brother Ron. I couldn't find a better brother anywhere. Racing is one thing, but helping people out is another side of Ron. It doesn't get talked about a lot, but Ron is a very generous person.
He's done so much, and he's seen so much that anytime something arises, because the industry is so changing, even when you're caught off guard, he's had the experience to help you lead through something. So, you know, working with him is great because it really speeds up your learning process. And for me to get to this level and to learn everything that you need to learn, to have a pillar like that to lean on has really sped everything up and helped me get to a higher level.
If you want to get to the fun stuff with Ron, you're going to have to start thinking about racing. The guy bleeds it. He eats it, he sleeps it, he lives it. That's all he is about. He wants to work on cars, he wants to drive cars, he wants to work on go-karts, he wants to drive go-karts. He's gonna do whatever he can to go out there and go fast, and then he's gonna figure out a way to try to make whatever it is that he's driving or whatever it is that he's in go faster yet. And that's the cool thing about Ron. He's got a very aggressive style, whether it be working on the cars at the racetrack or driving anything at all. I've seen him break shifter handles off of shifter carts. I mean, the guy is extremely aggressive on the racetrack. He's fun to watch and he's fun to be a part of when it comes to that. But you know, if you really want to get to know Ron Malec, you better have a car around, because that's really all he's interested in.
Everything he does 100%. There's no slacking in anything. I mean, I've been at his house when he's raking leaves, and he does that. He goes harder than anybody else I've ever met. So, you know, I think that's the best way to describe it, is I've never seen him do anything that is lackluster or you're not 100%. And
the first thing I ever noticed about Ron is he's the fastest walker I've ever seen in my life.
At track, you better be a fast walker, first of all, to keep up with him. I've never seen anybody walk as fast as he does.
walking through the shop, you know, he walks faster than anybody else. That's him, that's Ron.
We'll be going in the same direction sometimes, and he's on another speed. And it's just like, am I that slow or am I not keeping up? But he's 100 mile an hour all the time. That's Ron.
It's the guy that will never give you half of it. He's always going to be 100%.
It's just the stories, because the way you tell stories is obviously probably funner than what was going on at the moment. And you know, it's somebody else telling the story about Ron and how he really does put his heart and soul into everything racing, and it just translates to the team, honestly.
Ron just genuinely loves working on stuff. You know, I can remember in the ASA days of us traveling to a race. We race that night, we drive, we get home, sun's coming up, we go back to the apartment. So we'd race Saturday night, and then Sunday afternoon was a local short track in Wisconsin named Slinger. And I'd go to bed at 6 in the morning, wake up at 10. Ron's not even there. Like, he's gone to where his race car was kept and working on it, and was just bound and determined to try to leave me out of helping him. And he would drive the truck and trailer to the track with his helmet during practice, jacking the car up, changing tires, adjusting shocks, track bar, all this stuff. And as anybody would try to help him, he would literally like fight you off just so he could say that he did it all. And again, we just raced the night before, and he drove the transporter all the way back, and he's on no sleep. So, I mean, in his heart and soul, he just loves to work on things, and especially race cars.
What makes a great race mechanic is dedication. That's the number one thing. You have to be dedicated to the job and willing to put a lot of time and effort in. You have to be very open to look at different ways of doing things. You know, you go back to that famous saying that there's no I in team. It takes a whole group of people to make the product work at the racetrack or in the shop. The biggest thing is being observant around your environment and always be open to something new every day of your life. When we looked at making this award, it was just an award that we were going to give to people in motorsports. So we had given some awards out in the past, but not to this magnitude. There's a whole pile of different things that we looked at for this award. There's so many different things that are involved in motorsports racing, and Ron has done that through his professional career. Of course, we could talk about Ron's background when he started riding go-karts and doing other things, but just look at the time from his professional career. He's, you know, the three people that have been the pillar of the 48 team since the beginning at Hendrick Motorsports, and you cannot deny what they've achieved.
You know, he's been with Jimmy the longest of anyone. He's got more wins with Jimmy than anyone else, too. They've got 7 championships. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I believe that his hard work has paid off. He's totally deserving of the position that he's in. I think one thing that makes Ron excel the way he does is he still remembers when he lived off peanut butter and jelly, and then he couldn't afford anything else, and he'll even tell you that. So when we go out to dinner and he eats steak, I'm like, why do you have to get steak every time? He goes, because I used to live off peanut butter and jelly. He has an appreciation, he hasn't forgotten his roots, and that makes one thing about him, that he's so down to earth because he hasn't forgotten that. And I think he kind of gives that aura to everybody on the team to stay humble, in your beginnings. It's hard work when you're starting out, and it's hard work at this level. And he has that same mindset. He had the same mindset as when he was a kid.
You know, the thing about Ron is it's his self-drive and his willingness to get better and learn that makes him deserving of an award like this.
If you want to talk about lifetime achievements, and he's not even done yet, he's far surpassed what most people will ever do.
I know he's going to be very honored to be the first recipient of this award. And I think he's the right guy. Of course, I'm going to be biased, but the right guy because he didn't do it to be something or someone. He did it because it was him. And he has pursued this lifestyle out of his heart, not because it could lead to something or lead to fame or lead to championships or moments. Ron would still have a great time if none of the success happened. And I know that because I know him so well. I mean, it's who he is. So he's going to be very honored, and I think at a loss of words for this, which is going to be fun to see, but so well deserved.